iPhone 16 Pro versus the iPhone 4S 13 years later. Today's going to be a fun one. We're going to take a look at the differences between an iPhone after 13 years. Wow. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's start with the prices here 13 years later. What did they cost the iPhone 4S when this thing came out? A lot of people called this one iPhone for Steve. This was definitely a Steve Jobs moment here. He also announced this original iPhone 4 design. I think this one came like literally right around or right after his passing. So rest in peace. But you can see right here, $199 for the 16 gig model. This was $299 for a 32 and $399 for a 64. So we were getting more storage. Things were advancing, but we were still on carrier prices. These are carrier prices. Unlocked, though, we definitely would have seen these more around the prices, $549, $649, right around there. So this was close to the price of that of like a base iPhone 16, but still a little bit less. iPhones have definitely went up in the price tag, and something like a newer version of this would be like a 16 Pro. This definitely costs quite a few $100s more, especially if you buy this thing unlocked, which a lot of people do, or if you buy it on a carrier and you don't make payments, you're still going to be buying this at a pretty high price tag comparatively to something like an iPhone 4S. But if you see, look how much smaller that phone is, look how much more you're getting. It's a big difference. So you can see why you're paying a big difference. The size of this thing. Oh man, look at the screen. Look at the bezels. All right, this is not fair. Some people might be still using an iPhone 4S. But if you put it right here, oh, look at this. Like it fits inside the body of the goodbye. See you later. It fits inside the body of the iPhone 16 Pro. So, I mean, like it's just funny how look at look at my hand. Look at my hand versus the actual size of the iPhone 4S. Like, I mean, yeah, it was good for one hand, but a person with a big hand, this is like, it's just like tiny. Like the apps are really tiny. The way we're going to use things are very tiny. But at the time, I'm only laughing now because Apple went to all big screens. At the time, there were competitors with bigger screens than this, and Apple continued to put out these 3.5-inch displays. So they were pretty unique in the market back then. Because there wasn't a ton of small, tiny phone options. But then they started gradually increasing it, and they couldn't deny the facts that everybody wanted a larger screen. But if you look at these bezels, the big deal this year is bezels, and a lot of people are saying, well, it's not a big noticeable. Well, it's a big noticeable change if you're looking at it compared to what we used to have on iPhones. I mean, look at that. I could basically say the bezel is a good third of the phone. I mean, let's say this section right here and this section was gone, you're basically looking at an iPhone 13 mini. So definitely this phone right here had some massive bezels. That is a big difference. The bodies, though, were very, very similar like back then on this phone to now in a couple of ways. So you still have like the curved corners. That's been an Apple classic thing forever. And they kind of brought back this like metal frame thing with the titanium builds. It's kind of like clean like the older stainless steel here, without being polished. Stainless steel still seems a little bit it scratches up pretty good, although this phone is 13 years old. But one of the things I really, really liked about the old body was those volume rockers. Look at those volume rockers right there. They had a plus and the attention to detail back then. Look at the plus and minus signs in there. That was attention to detail. The silence switch up high. You could see the area of the 3.5 where I laughed in the original iPhone video got much smaller, which was nice. You'll see right here, we have the power switch, and then you could actually put it there before because that's kind of where your finger would rest. You would probably accidentally press it all the time on this size of a phone back then, so your finger would actually rest there pretty well. And then we had on the side a SIM card tray. So this was definitely micro SIM, not nano SIM and not full SIM, but micro SIM. And then down here, the old classic 30-pin connector. Apple still had attention to detail back then as well with these really nice, speaker grills, the Torx screws. So this phone was a beautiful product at the time. As a matter of fact, I think this phone was better looking than even the 5 series. The 5 and the 5S, this was a better looking phone in my opinion than those ones. It was just a very nice upgrade and a very different change from like the iPhone 3, 3GS, the original. This was just a huge, huge upgrade at the time. A lot of people nowadays are looking the question, the iPhone 16 Pro, it's a pretty compact size, right? Compared to the Max it is. But this is no compact phone. I mean, look at this thing. It's still a two-hander compared to something like this. For sure, not a huge phone by today's standards, but it kind of does look huge when you compare it to what we used to have. That's why, like, you'll see Apple advertise the large screens and stuff, and you are like, what do you mean? The 16 Pro is a large screen? Well, if you look at their past, it's absolutely a large screen. I mean, look at this. The usability is not going to be one-handed on this phone for a lot of people or users. Over here, this is a one-hander for pretty much everybody. And you could swipe down up here. And that's where I laughed at the bezels earlier, but that's where the bezels were definitely very useful, because you can just kind of like swipe from the top, and the reachability of things were just amazing right here. So you can just one thumb bring your brightness sliders. You could just click the calculator like that, and then you could just kind of like swipe through. Every corner of the phone was super reachable. So very nice, very easy to operate this product right here. Also, people, if you cracked the glass back, it wasn't super hard to replace. You could just stick a new one on there, or you could even take these off and get a custom color. Let me know if you did a custom color iPhone 4 back in the day. But definitely the usability, this is a true one-handed usability experience. Although the home button is looking kind of old, it was also useful because your thumb would just go right there, bang, and you're out of there. And then you could just lock it like that. So super usable back then. And you could see this is on iOS 9.3.4. Even now, it still scrolls through the main home screens pretty smoothly. It's not like lagging up or anything like that. But I will tell you, it cannot basically run most of the applications on the App Store today. There's almost nothing. This is really running very well at this point. Look at the camera on this thing. It's so tiny by comparison to the new iPhone. As a matter of fact, it's about the size of the LiDAR sensor. This thing is absolutely abysmal in sensor size today. However, I will tell you, unlike the original iPhone I did, there's a sensor right there. Unlike the original iPhone, this one actually can be usable still. All right, so look at this. In good lighting, you could still take a nice photo. Let me go ahead and go like this. 13 years later, this is what a photo is going to look like. Oh, nice. Got the little shutter sound. There we go. And you could see nice little blur action. It kind of fixed it a little bit. A usable photo. I mean, that's a usable photo. I'm not saying it's a great photo. It's pretty abysmal by comparison to today's standard, but that is usable. Also, look at that video. Take a look at the iPhone 16 Pro's huge camera, stovetop. And then we go over here. You'll see right there. While not an amazing video, as a matter of fact, if you shot a video with this and you had good audio, I don't think people would shy away from your content. They would still watch this. Look at that. That is decent. I know if the content was good, I would watch a video off of that all day. I would watch that video. 1080p, 720, I don't care. I'm going to watch it. That was pretty decent video. They also had a selfie camera at this point. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that looks. Peace. We'll go over here. And you'll see, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty blurry. Don't get it twisted. I mean, you could see the pixels. You could see my Lumix camera is not really in detail too much, but usable? Yeah. Is it going to be amazing? Absolutely not. But 13 years later, that photo is still a usable photo, I would say. It's definitely one that you could show what you're doing. It's definitely not flip phone quality like the original iPhone. So that is still usable all these years later. Oh my goodness, look at the display. The whole entire display is like the bottom 4 rows of the iPhone 16 Pro. Let's go into the displays here in the App Store, and you can also see the speed right there was unbelievably fast for the iPhone 16 Pro. This is the patience you had to have back then. Not anymore. You basically have it served up on a platter like that all the time for you. So don't take for granted the amazing speeds and performance you get nowadays. It's unbelievable compared to before. And look at this. You could probably see as much content it would take you like 3 or 4 scrolls to see as much content as you'll see in one opening on the current iPhone. And the brightness, let's see the brightness. The brightness, while not bad on the iPhone 4S, I think it's still usable. It's definitely nowhere near that of a current iPhone, and the current iPhone will be much better in sunlight. So these iPhones nowadays are designed for everyday use. They're designed for heavy use. These old ones felt like more like just a companion tool, like a phone to use for messaging, a few things here and there, but they were more like put them in your pocket and get on with your day. Nowadays, it feels like your whole life is on your phone by comparison to back in these times. So definitely that display a lot smaller, but still decently sharp. It is Retina display. It's also pretty darn bright as well on the iPhone 4S here. When it comes to the software, you had Control Center over here. I mean, look at the difference now, customizable Control Center and stuff like that. While a lot of the elements are still kind of similar, we still have flat UI over here on the icons. You can see we still have the same 4-row dock. You know, you can even see in settings, even the settings, like if we go to settings, they kind of like the way the icons look, they still look kind of the same. If I'm not kidding with you, they look kind of similar on the left side there, although all the apps were at the bottom before. I don't have many on here on the right. It's still kind of a similar experience. So if you actually held on to this phone for 10 plus years and then you came to a new one, I think you would still easily get used to the new phone. That's how similar it has been. But look at the Apple News icon on iOS 9. It just looks so different. Look at it over there. And I thought at the time this looked pretty up to date. But nowadays, it really doesn't look too up to date. Although the weather app, they also turned the weather cloud as if the cloud changed. You could see they turned the sun the other way. I think they turned the sun actually the other way. You can see the messaging icon looks the same. The camera icon looks the same. Well, it's a little bit different on the newer iPhone. You could see right there versus the older one. A little bit different, but not drastically. And then even the iPhone 16 Pro, if we take a look at the camera setup, the layout is still pretty similar with addition of new features. But the actual camera setup when you're framing a photo is pretty similar to a long time ago. So they haven't really messed with the core experience 13 years later. They still give you that, although you now have the customization, which was only a pipe dream on the older iPhone 4S, unless you wanted to do Cydia and jailbreak and all that stuff. You can now do that base right out of the box with the current iPhone. We probably, at this time, we never thought we could do something like this. It was like never even imaginable. We thought we were never going to be able to do this with an iPhone ever. So when it comes to battery, the iPhone 4S had a 1432 milliamp hour battery. Yes, 1432. For the time, for the size, that was enough to get you through a day with the type of usage we did back then. 512 megabytes of RAM, not even 1 gigabyte of RAM here. This had an Apple A5 chipset. But with a 3.5 inch LCD, that size of a display would definitely probably give you a decent amount of battery life. So I would say this is definitely, look at how many hours it's been since my last full charge. 60,000 hours in 24 minutes. But the iPhone 4S was definitely a decent amount. However, nowadays, you can really use your phone heavy. Like a lot of stuff, a lot more computer-like tasks on your phone and still last the whole day. So it seems like the battery isn't changing much over time, but it actually has changed so much over time when you look at the size and capacities we used to have versus now. We are absolutely spoiled with battery life these days. Even a phone that's not as good as the iPhone 16 Pro Max, like let's say you watch a battery test and you see, oh, the 16 Pro Max is the best, the other one's not. Even those ones that are not the best are still so much better than what they used to be. So battery life, definitely not the strongest suit of these smaller phones. But you had your 30-pin connector with you wherever you went. So you had to definitely be charging up this baby. There was also battery packs back then as well. So you could just slap a battery pack in your backpack and charge it up as well. And at this time, when you had the headphone jack right there, the 3.5 mil, the music player, well, it was Apple Music. Now you don't have no headphone jack. You have a USB-C, which is nice. You could use that for USB-C headphones, which would be similar to the jack nowadays. AirPods Pro, everything is, it's just a little bit different. Back in the day, it just felt kind of like an iPod. It was still iPod-like back then. Apple was still selling iPods at this time. The iPhone was just another product. Eventually, those phased out. But definitely, the headphone jack, it's up here, was, I didn't like it up here. I think it should have been down here, but they had to put those microphone and speaker grills down there, which by the way sounded decent for the time, Although with this size of a phone, you're not going to get incredibly loud audio. So that's another area of improvement people don't really think about. The newer 16 Pros and all these newer iPhones have way louder booming speakers than back in the time, and also much better microphones for recording audio. Speed-wise, though, this thing was not great. At the time, it was decent, but it was actually, I should take that back. At the time, it was faster than most phones out there. But right now, this thing is not great at all. With the dual-core 1 gigahertz A5 CPU, this thing is not really great. It's a 45 nanometer chipset. It does have the last update this got was the iOS 9.3.4, and you could see I cannot download ChatGPT, although it is being displayed right here. Most of the apps that I want to download now are not usable, so this is an unusable phone these days. Of course, everything just says unable to purchase, which means unable to download essentially. The funny thing is I tried to buy an iPhone today on this phone, and I wasn't able to do it, so I went to apple.com, and it will actually, unlike the original iPhone, this one will actually display the website, although it takes an eternity for it to display. But when you click buy, it doesn't display it properly when I tried it. Let's see if it does it here. See, it won't let me display it. And then when I try to buy it, it just gives me all these like hyperlink looking links right here. So if I click something here, it's almost impossible to buy a phone. Like, let's say you were still using this, almost no one is, but if you were using this still, it wouldn't even be possible right now. You probably would just have to go in the store and just buy the phone. You're probably not going to do it on the phone. So you're missing that pre-order if you had this phone. Besides, by the time you load the website, the pre-orders would have been sold out on this product right here. But look at the home button. I really liked the home button back then. It had like the little icon shape. That was quite nice. Let me know your thoughts on that. But at the end of the day, the iPhone 4S, 13 years later versus the iPhone 16 Pro would have been a massive upgrade. Here's the real changes. When you look at these older iPhones, even Siri works a little bit slow. There we go. That's the weather where I'm at currently. And you could see, look at this. I mean, that was a little bit of a time. Siri over here on this phone is much, much faster. It just waits to hear you and everything. So that's a major difference. But 140 grams feels much lighter. This feels classic, though. It gives me nostalgic fever. It feels kind of like at this time, the progression of the iPhone experience was so exciting. And this was even more exciting than this current time. I think they've gotten too comfortable in creating the same thing very frequently, that the times back then were more exciting. Although if you kind of look at the 16 Pro and the 4S, they kind of retain some of these like similar elements. So you can see Apple has definitely stayed with its roots in designing these products even now. So let me know your thoughts on a 16 Pro versus a 4S 13 years later. I might do a couple more of these nostalgic revisits. I think they're funny and fun to take a look at these massive differences. And there's no real point in terms of like this is being a logical comparison. This is for entertainment, and this is to take a look at the progression of iPhone over the span of more than a decade. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.